Today we're going to move on with the next part of Unit 1 under Numbers 1, which is your significant figures. Alright, so for significant figures, we usually have to use it in physics, scientific calculations, as well as obviously for this math. And we will be looking at first and second significant figures. So the first significant figures is basically the first non-zero digit in the number starting from the left hand side. This is basically excluding any zeros in the front. So let's use example over here. Highlight basically the first significant figures of the following numbers. Basically you have number 2. Alright, that is the first digit that you are going to be looking at, and you will use the second digit to determine whether you're going to round up or round downwards. So similarly for part B, because the first digit is 0, we will move on to the next digit over here, which is 1. And likewise for part C, all the zeros in the front, we are going to ignore it. Alright, we are going to look at the first non-zero digit, which is 5. So when rounding off, right, to two significant figures, we actually look at the next significant figure, which is the third value. Alright, if this is greater or equals to 5, that means greater or equals to 5, we will round up. But if it's less than 5, we are going to round down. Similarly, if we are looking at three significant figures, we are going to look at the fourth digit or fourth significant figures. So basically this just means you are looking at the digit after, alright, to the right side of whatever number that you are actually interested in looking at. So over here, when we have 1361, okay, we have 1361 for part A, we would like to find out what is the three significant figures, or round this value up to three significant figures. So 1, 2, and 3. On the fourth significant figures, this is value 1, which is less than 5. Therefore, we will round it downwards, alright, to give you 1, 3, 6, 0. Okay, so if we are looking at two significant figures as per the question is asking for, we will then look at the third significant figures, which is going to be 6. And since 6 is more than 5, we're going to round it up, become 1 400. Okay, so this is just an example. Let's move on to part C, where we have 1349. In this case, we'll move straight to two significant figures. So we are looking at 1 and 3, or rather number 3 being the second significant figures. We are going to look at the third digit, which is 4. So in this case, which is 4, we are going to round it down to 1 3 0 0. Okay, so if you look at the fourth digit and you realize, oh, but what if I actually rounded it up from 4 significant figures up to 3, following that from 3 up to 2, you realize actually your answer is actually very, very different. So just do make sure that depending on the significant figure, you move straight to the correct decimals, or rather correct significant figures, such that you are able to do the question correctly. Yeah. Okay, so we move on to the next portion where we involve slightly different format. So in this case now we have decimal points. Alright, so if you remember, for decimal points we exclude, alright, the first zero terms, and we look at the first non-zero terms. If we are now interested in two significant figures, we are going to be looking at the first two non-zero terms, which is number 1, number 2. Alright, so up to two significant figures, we therefore are going to take our guidance from the third significant figures as to whether we round up or round down. Therefore, since the third significant figures is 6, we are going to round up because it's more than 5. Therefore, it gives us the value of 0.014. Similarly, for part C, for two significant figures, we are going to ignore the first 3 zeros, and we're going to look at the third significant figures over here, which is 4. So 4 is less than 5, therefore we round downwards and we get a result of 0.0013 over here. Okay, so that is significant figures done. We have the next portion, which is your decimal place. So decimal place is basically after the decimal point, any number. All right. If you have 2 decimal place, 3 decimal place, 1 decimal place, all these are counted from the point of the decimal point to the right side. So an example over here will be basically if we are interested in 2 decimal point, okay, 2 decimal point, we are going to take the guide from the decimal point over here, all right, and we are going to label it as 1, 2. So if you would like to round it up to 2 decimal point, we are going to look at the third decimal point to determine if it's going to be rounding up or rounding down. In this case, we have 6. So therefore, we are going to round the value of 7.1361 upwards to 7.14. Okay, so if we look at part C, we have in this case 0.0349. So just take note that we are interested in the 2 decimal point. Okay, 2 decimal point. In this case, the decimal point doesn't include or involve zeros in front or not. So anything after the decimal point, we will be interested. So this is your first decimal point. This is your second decimal point. We are going to look at your third decimal point. So in this case, it's 4. So therefore, we have to round this down to give us 0.03 as per what is mentioned over here. All right. So this is an example for the table. If you would like, all right, to know for pi, it's a function that is pressed on your calculator. In your pi, there's 3.141592654, yada yada yada. If we would like to have 5 degrees of accuracy, okay, this can be represented via 5 significant figures or 5 decimal places. So you will know that if we are talking about 5 significant figures, we are always starting from the left hand side and the first 5 non-zero terms. So basically this will be 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. And in order to determine the first 5 significant figures, we look at number 6. Alright, because number 6 is greater than 5. Therefore, we are going to round it upwards to give us 3.1416. Okay. However, on the other hand, if we have decimal places and we are interested in up to 5 decimal places, we always take from the decimal points to the right side. So in this case, we are going to ignore number 3. Okay, we're going to start from the decimal point, which is here. This is 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. And we are going to take a look at number 2 because the 5th decimal place is up to 9. So we are going to look at the 6th decimal place to decide if you're going to round up or round down. In this case, it's 2 and it is less than 5. Therefore, we are going to round it downwards, thereby giving us 3.14159. Okay, so you can do this for the exact same way for degrees of accuracy for number 3 as well as number 1, or rather 3 degrees of accuracy and 1 degrees of accuracy. Okay, so those in key points, all right, what we have just went through. So if you need to review it again, just pause the video and just read through these key points. Next, we're going to move on to the actual exercises itself. All right, so as per usual, I'm just going to be doing just some questions on it. If you'd like me to do more questions on the exercises, just let me know in the comments. I'll make a videos for it. All right, so first one, let's start with the study easy version. Question 1 over here. So write correct to one significant figure. All right, for 783, because one significant figure, we are basically looking at number 7. In order for us to round it up or down, we look at the second digit, which is 8. So in this case, this will be 800. All right, so for this question 2, it's the same thing. We look at the second digit over here. So therefore it is greater than 5. Therefore our answer will be 90,000. Okay, so let's move on to the last one. So, okay, maybe let's do one more over here. Two significant figure for question 5. So non-zero to two significant figures. So 1, 2, we are looking at the third one. So this is 0.44. Alright, and same thing for here, 0.56. Because the third value is greater or equals to 5. Alright, and now we move on to the decimal places. We have 11 and 12. Alright, so 1 dp, we are always looking at the decimal point. 1 dp, we are interested in this value over here. So we look at the second decimal point. So in this case, it is 0. So we therefore round it down. So we will get the answer of 3.0. So some of you might be thinking 3.0, isn't it the same thing as just writing 3? However, for scientific calculations, you are required to write 3.0. Otherwise, your accuracy or your precision will be off and you will get marked off for your science. Okay, but in this case, it's math, so you just have to show that it's 3.0 rather than 3. Next, 9.09. Okay, similarly, is 1 decimal point. We look at the second decimal point to decide. Therefore, in this case, 9 is greater than 5, so our answer is 9.1. Alright, so come, let's move on to the next one. Okay, so sometimes you will get questions that are application based. Alright, so if you look at question number 16, okay, the distance around the equator is 40075 kilometers. Write this distance correct to 1 SF. So 1 SF, we start from the first non-zero terms, which is basically 4. Alright, this is excluding the fact that we have zeros inside the numbers. If there's zeros starting after the first non-zero terms, we will include these numbers. Okay, so for the first SF, we look at the second SF, which is basically 0. Therefore, we'll round this to 40,000 kilometers. Okay, so now let's move on to the exercise 6 star, where it's slightly more challenging. So let's just pick a random question. Let's look at 7 and 8. So 3 sig fig, by now you should roughly get an idea. First non-zero terms, which is 4. 3 sig fig is up to number 5, so we are going to look at number 4. Okay, the number 4 in the 4 significant figures. Therefore, this will give us 0.0495 because we round it downwards. What about the next one? 0.000. We ignore that, so we can write that down first. So we look at the fourth decimal place is more than 5, so it's 5, 6, 8. Okay, so we see what's the next one we can try. So we have question 13. Okay, question 13, where we're going to touch on dp and significant figures. So in this case, 3 dp. Okay, we're going to start at the decimal point 1, 2, 3. So we are looking at number 4. In this case, it is less than 5, so therefore this answer is 0.000. Okay, it might look a little bit weird, but we are just answering to the question. Okay, on the other hand, we are looking at 3SF. So 3SF, we ignore the 3 zeros in the front and we start counting 1, 2, 3. And we start from the number 5, the fourth significant figures, to determine what is the rounded up value. So in this case, it's 5, so we round it up, so 0.498. Alright, so so you have basically more interesting questions. Okay, let's try for number 15. So in this case, you have 10 bottles of perfumes, alright, at 12721.89 per ounce. Write this price correct to one significant figure. So in this case, 10 bottles doesn't matter because there's just extra information which is actually not needed. Alright, so we'll just do the math. One significant figures, we look at the second. So basically this will give us 10,000. Alright, for 1 dp, alright, we are going to look at the second decimal point. Therefore, this value will be 1271.21 for 1 dp. Alright, for 1 dp. Okay, do you have to put 90? No, because we are just interested to express it to 1 dp. That's it. Okay, just try the questions, revise. If you have any questions, just do let me know in the comments below.